Good evening to all of you, and thank you for joining us on 13 Plus. Happy Monday. I'm Mary Coleman. Let's jump right into your story for this evening. Now, children's toys that appear to be virtually the same as recalled products remain on the market. Our national investigative team found that's partially because manufacturers negotiate with the government to dictate many of their own recall terms, which can take months or even years to get through. Here's that story.
It's even hard to get into because, my daughter was dying in front of me.
I'm so worried.
A heartbreaking story documented over months on Felicia Mitchell's TikTok account still isn't easy to tell.
I did have a time where I told her it's okay if you're suffering too much, you can go and I'll be okay. And that changes you when you are speaking to your 9-month-old that way.
Kennedy was just a baby when her mother Felicia says she got a hold of one of her 8-year-old brother's water beads.
Somehow she ingested one water bead. Just one in a pack that I had purchased that had 10,000 of the beads in the pack, and one of them caused a bowel obstruction in Kennedy's body.
The beads start out so small they look like cupcake sprinkles, easily lost in corners or carpet. But when exposed to water, they expand and turn into squishy blobs.
Felt like I didn't know what corner or what was safe about my house at that point.
In recent years, the beads have been sold as toys and even used for sensory therapy for kids, which is why Felicia bought them for her son, who is on the autism spectrum. She was prepared and even first aid trained for a potential choking hazard, but she wasn't prepared for this, a life-threatening obstruction hiding deep in Kennedy's body.
And when they're wheeling her away and I'm looking at her, it's like, is this the last time I'm gonna see her alive?
For 28 excruciating days at the hospital, Felicia and Kennedy's dad worried as they say one tiny bead nearly took their tiny baby.
These are not allowed in my house.
As Kennedy fought for her life, Felicia began waging her own fight after she learned about the Consumer Product Safety Commission, or CPSC.
I found them online and I reported the injury.
Did they get back in touch with you?
They did, yep.
And what did they say?
That they had got my report and they were launching an investigation.
Nearly 1 year after Felicia made her report, the CPSC announced the product maker, Chuckle and Roar, was issuing a recall for the Ultimate Water Bead Kit.
Is that too long for a recall to happen?
Yeah, it is. And before the recall, CPSC was aware of what happened to Kennedy, and they have policies that they are tied up in and that they have to follow. So even before the recall, it was known that these were dangerous.
Kennedy survived, but between Felicia's CPSC report in November of 2022 and this recall in September of 2023, a 10-month-old child in Wisconsin died after swallowing a bead from the very same kit.
There was a cascade of events that happened, and that poor family had no idea. But it felt like you showed up a day late and $1 short. And now you're voluntarily recalling, but we have a mom whose baby is dead now. And now you do a voluntary recall.
And this is where the story takes another turn. When our team saw the recall in September, we went looking to see if we could find any left on the market. That kit appeared to be gone, wiped from the virtual and store shelves. But other water bead kits from that very same company were still available. We bought this one the day after the recall.
It doesn't feel like you've done something good when you stop selling this product because you have a seriously injured child. But the same company has essentially the same water beads, just sitting in a different package.
We asked CPSC Commissioner Richard Trumka about the recall and what was and wasn't pulled from the market. He couldn't talk about this specific case, but part of the issue with most product recalls is the company legally gets to negotiate the language and terms.
And so a lot of it comes down to the company. So if we know that one of those products was associated with a death or with a serious injury, we could go to that company and say, let's recall this, and what else do you have that poses the same hazard? A good company is going to agree to a scope of a recall that includes any similar product that could pose the same hazard, even if it hasn't hurt anybody yet.
We've discovered the second kid also had an injury report, a 1-year-old whose airway was blocked after he inhaled a water bead from the sensory bin. By December, that kit was still being sold, but with soft pom-poms replacing water beads. Then it totally disappeared from Amazon, but is still being sold on secondhand sites with water beads, which is perfectly legal because there is still no recall for this particular kit.
So it just doesn't make sense.
I can understand the confusion there, but I can't comment on the specific case.
Is the confusion concerning?
I think with water beads, it's concerning enough that we've warned the public not to have any of these things.
Our team also looked at other children's products where one part of a line is recalled, but other similar looking toys are still being sold. Look at these books. This one recalled because the rings could come off and pose a choking hazard. This one not recalled. The company said it's had no injuries reported and explained the reason the ABC book isn't recalled is because it's for older children learning the alphabet. In other words, the lack of a recall has nothing to do with the rings being able to detach and become a choking hazard, but the age of the intended user. And look at this train car. One is recalled because the magnet could detach, but the other isn't. This one is the recall toy. This one, not under a recall.
I guess the appearance is one thing. Two products might look similar, and it turns out only one poses a risk. Maybe they used a different glue or a different manufacturing line on two. So it's not always the case that two products that look the same both pose the same risk.
In March, the CPSC issued warnings for more water beads that contained a toxic chemical. These particular brands manufactured in China and sold on Amazon. We found more incident reports tied to these specific beads, with parents writing that their children ingested them and needed surgeries. These reports going all the way back to July of 2021, nearly 3 years before a warning.
You notify everyone that you can, and then CPSC says, well, we've got our policies, and it's like, did you hear me? Children are being hurt and dying. So it's frustrating.
The day of the new warnings, we searched Amazon again. Those named in the warning appear to be gone, but we found and bought water beads with different company names, advertised with identical photos. You can see every shadow matches here. The only difference, the container pictured in the middle. When they arrived, we saw the same wording CPSC had on the March warnings: bouncy, squishy, and beautiful. Amazon pulled the listing the next day, but the company selling these beads told us it's appealing, saying it has nothing to do with the company and the new CPSC warnings or the toxic chemical found, and the beads will no longer be used as a toy.
It is shocking to gain some understanding about how the process of something being recalled happens, and then knowing that sometimes we need cooperation from the company.
Kennedy is now 2 years old and just got into a dance class. And Felicia is now empowered to make a change. She's taking college classes, waiting to find out if she got into the nursing program. And she's working with other moms, advocating for a law to ban water beads.
We don't want it to happen anymore. And I look at Kennedy every day, and I think someday you're gonna know everything that we did. And that's very important to me.
Well, the company that manufactured the recalled water beads did not respond to our requests for comment. The water bead ban bill is currently in a House subcommittee right now. The CPSC is also working on a new federal rule to set standards for all of these water beads, like the ones that you saw in this story. Before we go, we are going to leave you with a live look of Mount Bigelow. Look at how beautiful that sky is looking. Not as much pink as we're used to seeing, but gorgeous nonetheless. Hope you're having a great Monday and will join us for 13 News Live at 10.